Day or night, it's test night, and welcome to my early 2024 Fnaf Timeline. Part 1. At this point in my theorizing journey, I have read the original Silver Eyes trilogy, seen gameplay of all the games from multiple channels, watched the movie, read a few of the Fazbear Frights books, but not all. So my timeline may change as the year goes on and I read more of the books. I mentioned a little part 1. This had to be split up because I don't like huge videos. Shouldn't be more than 2 or 3 parts, leaning more towards 2 at this point. Disclaimer. Some of this will be pure speculation and my own headcanons. I will tell it like a story first, and then explain my thinking, as I think that's how best to present my evidence, is story and then why I have it like that. A long time ago, there was a boy, William Afton. His family migrated from Britain to America in the late 30s to early 40s to bring the joy of a trained dancing, singing bear named Fredbear. William, a young boy at the time, probably around 5 or 6, doesn't remember much except for the dancing bear on a poster, something that would stick with him for years, maybe 30 to 40. It's the 70s. William, now father, starts his own business, Fredbear's Family Diner. It's a small business with some mascot costumes. The most famous are Fredbear and Spring Bonnie, but he had other characters, silly characters, some circus-themed. William always liked the circus. He was successful, but running a business was hard. Heck, he had to wear the mascot costumes himself most times. It took a strain on his marriage, his wife claiming he was rarely around to help with their children, though he wasn't sure his eldest was his. Then he found it, a failing but charming little barnyard restaurant with animatronics. He had been investigating it for copyright issues, having heard of a Ned Bear. The Elephant Magic show was the most entertaining part of it. The star, Chica, stole his attention. Not the character itself, but the animatronic. If he could have something like that wear his mascot costumes, then he had to have more time to study robotics himself, more time to himself, his family. He approached the man, a mechanical genius by the name of Henry, to buy his business, merge with him, so to say. Though William was certain he could let go of Henry after a certain point. Henry ended up being an excellent business partner. While William handled the business side, Henry handled the robotics. Plus, they both had daughters in similar age ranges. William had his little doll Elizabeth and his princess Cassidy, and Henry had his baby Charlotte. The extra time didn't help his failing marriage. His wife divorced him despite what he saw as his best efforts. He couldn't just sit there and let her take his children away, so he convinced Elizabeth to speak against her mother in court, make her look bad. Unfortunately, Clara took her life as a result. Without another parent to assist with everything, William had to leave his daughters to his son, Michael. All this happened as Henry and him opened Freddy Fazbear's, a spin-off location containing Chica, Foxy, and even variants of Fredbear and Spring Bonnie. Between that and the Fall Fest of 1983, the company became very popular. However, all the credit went to Henry, not William himself, who was making the business popular, making the wise moves. No, it went to Henry, who all he had going for him was animatronics. Why? Why did Henry get all the credit? Why did Henry get to have a wonderful family home life? Why? William needed to do something. Something to make Henry look bad. But not something that would reflect badly on William himself. That's when he had an idea. There was a group of kids that would play with his and Henry's daughters at Freddy's, one of which who had recently lost her puppy. A little girl named Susie. She'd be easy enough to lure away to become a missing child, and if they ever found her, she'd be in Henry's only successful mascot. It was brilliant. But it didn't work. They searched for Susie, but no one thought to check Chica or blame Henry. William had to escalate. One by one, children went missing. Fritz, Gabriel, Jeremy. Rumors started going around. What's worse is Cassidy began to believe them, despite being one of the safest children in the world. Freddy's was closed down. All William had to show were some toys that had been the children's, gifted to his little Cassidy. He needed more bodies. He needed to find a way to put them into Chica's party world. So he started Circus Babies Pizza, building the fun times. They would kidnap children, and he would traumatize or kill them and release them back into Chica's when Henry rented the characters out. But he didn't plan on Michael being such an awful brother. He had warned all 3 of his kids to stay away from the fun times. He couldn't risk the programming viewing them as targets. Still, opening day, Michael had gotten distracted, probably hanging out with one of his friends, and Elizabeth had been left alone with baby. At least, that's how the robot saw it. William would have never known what had happened if it hadn't been for Cassidy. She'd come crying into his office. "Baby ate Abby," she cried. "Her stomach opened and Abby was gone." William closed the building under the guise of a gas leak, but by the time he got everyone out and baby to the back, Elizabeth had unfortunately passed on. Her death left an empty room in a once full home, and nightmares in Cassidy. She would wake all hours of the night, screaming Fredbear was going to eat her. And Michael began to make fun of his sister, calling her a crybaby. Not willing to risk another incident happening, William made a nanny cam for Cassidy to carry around. He would use her fear to his advantage. Even if he wasn't next to her, he could scare her away from the animatronics. "Remember what you saw," he'd tell her. It was wonderful. It was genius. It wasn't enough. Once again, it was Michael's fault. Directly this time. It had been Cassidy's birthday, for goodness sake. He tormented the poor child. Placed her into Fredbear's mouth, telling her to give him a kiss. He could hear the cries from the other room, but assumed Michael was just using a Fredbear mask to torment his sister until the party room went quiet. Cassidy had been rushed to the hospital, but she didn't end up surviving. The one William shouldn't have killed, didn't want to kill, died because of his and Michael's mistakes. William became bitter, obsessed with finding the secret of life. He would live forever. He would get his daughters back. He would make Michael suffer for their deaths. Yes, Michael would suffer the same nightmares Cassidy did before her death. And Henry, who refused to put sailfish in, would hurt how William hurt. It ended up being easier than expected. With no friends left, Charlie had been locked outside by bullies. William was drunk. He was about to get revenge for everything. 1983 had truly been a year to remember. A year of beginnings. That's it for part 1 of my early 2024 Fnaf Timeline. And now I will explain myself. I got a lot of inspiration from the game theorists, most recent at the time of scripting Ultimate Timeline when it came to the early beginnings of Fredbear's. It made a lot of sense to me considering the rights and the rough ages of the characters, though I estimate William to be about 5 or 6 at the very beginning. Yeah, enough to be inspired by memory, but no clear details. When it came to the dynamics between William, Clara, and Michael, I pulled from Immortal and Laurius and a bit from Vanessa's therapy files. As for the Ned Bear stuff, it was mainly the character guides saying Ned Bear seemed just different enough for copyright. Again, other than the strain on Michael and William's relationship, the early stuff is inspired by game theory. Because at this point where I'm in the FNAF books, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Why do I say Cassidy is crying child? I have a video series on that, but long story short, it's me, to me, is meant to refer to crying child in Golden Freddy. The Princess Quest file in Help 102 is labeled It's Me. In Security Reach, it was labeled Cassidy temporarily. That's the short and not super elaborate version. I have more evidence, but again, I've made a video on it and will potentially make more with newer evidence as it comes out. Or should it ever be debunked. For anyone saying that William needs motivation to kill beyond just being jealous of Henry, let me point to Silver Eyes. It wasn't Elizabeth's death in the books that led to him trying to kill Charlie in the MCI. It was his hate for Henry. Now, different continuities are a thing, but because of the child death order in Help Wanted 2 Princess Quest Graveyard, it means first the MCI died, then Cassidy. I personally believe Charlie is meant to be the 5th MCI due to this, and have Cassidy as Golden Freddy in this theory. I'll make a more in-depth video on it, and just Death Order in general, but that's the short version. Now, the plushie trophy collection, that has to do with actual serial killer behavior, along with the line, "These are my friends." As somebody who's watched way too much Criminal Minds, that leads me to believe Cassidy knows these toys belong to her friends, and that there's a connection to Spring Bonnie. And for William to give these trophies specifically to Cassidy means that William has some sort of care for Cassidy that he doesn't for his other children. Which is why you'll see my Tumblr minifix. I often reference Cassidy being William's favorite. I wanted there to be a reason William subjected Michael to FNAF 4, and to me that means, along with not truly believing Michael's his, Michael must have been responsible for both of the deaths of Elizabeth and Cassidy. One from neglect of the responsibilities William pushed on him, and the other from prank gone wrong. Thus, William isn't only mad that Henry got all the credit, but he's also envious that Henry got to keep his perfect family, his daughter, while William lost both of his. This is his motivation for killing Charlie, specifically. At least that's how I see the story so far. I'll probably do the part 2 before I delve into any of the theories I mentioned in this video, like the Death Order. Feel free to point any holes in this that you may find in the comments below. And how do you interpret these early events? Also, would anybody be interested in me reading my notes for the Outside Media Out Loud as an April Fool's video? It includes such gems as, "Dave must be fucking ripped," and "I'm 80% sure Charlie's asexual or aromantic, also neurodivergent, doesn't like people nor being touched, relatable." Anyways, again, let me know in the comments any holes you currently see, and if you'd be interested in a video based off of my insane note-taking while I read books or watched the movie and all that jazz.